I want you I would like you to, excuse me, I would like you to try to think about the intellectual inconsistencies you see pop up in conversations with, I want to say leftists, but you should always do it, right? I just struggle with the leftists. And this is one example. And I've been seeing this for literally a decade. About a decade ago was when I saw that the shift had occurred in how conversations were happening. Things like gatekeeping, dismissing, and ad hominems became more popular and more common. And other logical fallacies that I want to begin to go over on the channel. But for the purposes of this video, the inconsistencies in the conversations around privilege is what I would like to discuss. And I'm going to use a real life example that you can also do a thought experiment on or with. I was in a food court yesterday, grabbing some food at a really delicious little Indian restaurant. And I had noticed that there were a lot of single men in this food court and almost no single women. And I mean single as in they were dining alone. And I thought to myself, that's actually common. You see that often. It's not uncommon to see men eating alone, but it is kind of uncommon to see women eating alone. And we don't really talk about it or think about it, but if you do think about it, that realization kind of comes to mind. At least it has for me. And it has a very clear answer in my mind. It's because women don't have to eat alone if they don't want to. Women have the privilege of always having a dining companion should they want. Men don't always have that. Rich men do, because, you know, we're a very materialistic society. But if you're a broke dude, you're eating alone. And while I will agree that there are benefits and positives to being a dude, especially like a fit dude, there are benefits. I wouldn't use the word privilege, but if we're going to use that word, I would counter and say that there are definitely benefits to having boobs. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. The privilege of having boobs. I wish I had a pair of boobs. And I had noticed about a decade ago, in talking with one of my friends on this concept of privilege, you know, she had said that she doesn't think sex work should be taxed. And to me, I'm like, what the fuck? So dudes sell their bodies in the form of doing concrete work, manual labor, construction. The government can tax the shit out of that to support the welfare state, but then women sell their bodies and that shouldn't be taxed? And that's a true argument I had with a friend. So when I get worked up, it's because these blatant intellectual inconsistencies have been just sprouting up, and our friends and our families have been falling for the propaganda and have been brainwashed and are perpetuating this shit. I do acknowledge that it probably sucks to be a woman in cities that are crime riddled, which also happen to be often democratically ran cities, but let's not talk about that. I would be afraid of being raped. If I was a pretty woman, I would want to carry a gun. Oh man. And so when we talk about privilege, we should talk about both sides of it. The privilege of having boobs means you get free food and companionship whenever you want, but it also means that you're gonna be predated upon in the most direct way of saying it. The downside of being a dude and having all of this more strength and expectation, that's the downside, is that there's this expectation that men have to provide. And so men will go sell their bodies to get money so that they can then provide to get female companionship. And what the social constructionists say, so those are the postmodern philosopher people who think everything in our society is socially constructed, they would say that we can abolish that entire narrative if we change how we construct society. And then we can get into communism and all of that other stuff. These people don't realize that humans are animals. We are animals. We may have a higher level of sentience, but we're still fucking primal creatures. And so one more point I wanted to ramble on before I end the video about privilege and intellectual inconsistencies. I've lived most of my life in the Seattle, Washington area, where I've witnessed the transformation from grunge to a super sterile, politically correct environment. And it's gross. I prefer the grunge. Seattle is full of champagne socialist hypocrites. And so when I say that, I'm talking about young men and women who were raised in affluent families, who were given a lot of opportunities in their life, had a lot of their things paid for. Very middle to upper class families. The tech boom was good to a lot of families. But then these spoiled brat kids got brainwashed by the system and think that their life would not be changed in any way if true socialism or communism was implemented. They think that champagne, that's where the term comes from, they think that the standard of living that they were blessed to have can be had by everyone. And it can't. We can, yes, raise the standard of living for everyone, but we cannot create this utopian society. These people are so dumb. And it's the peak of privilege to come from wealth, to come from status, to come from not having to stress about paying your bills, to then chastise the working class. That is like, fuck you. That is why there is so much anti-intellectual resentment. That is why the working class loves Donald Trump. I don't love Donald Trump, but I fucking hate the left wing of the establishment. The whole establishment is broken, but you idiots who have fallen for the left wing nonsense, please wake up. Please. How did I start a video rambling about boobs, one of the greatest things ever, into yelling about class privilege? Because having a nice pair of boobs is the quickest, easiest thing you can do to elevate your class privilege. But we're not allowed to talk about that. I said it. Much love, y'all.